In a recent video, I've spoken about why I'm selling my buy-to-let property, but in today's video, I'm going to look at this with a completely different lens and ask one simple question. If this property came on the market today for £145,000, would I buy it as an investment in 2026? Now, none of this is financial advice, and you should definitely do your own research. On this channel, The Compounding Project, I'm just sharing my journey as a guy in my mid-30s, embarking on my investing journey, trying to give myself options for later in life. Some of that includes investing in the stock market, some of it includes investing in property, and today's video is a follow-on from the video where I've talked about I'm selling this buy-to-let property. I'm looking at it from a fresh lens and sharing my thoughts about this or something like this as an investment proposal in 2026. So if that story strikes you as something you'd like to follow along with, please do hit the subscribe button down below. I'd be very grateful. I'm not a course guru, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, I'm just documenting my journey and I hope that some people might find it interesting and embark on a journey of their own. Now, this channel is about investing and this video is about the numbers, so I'm not going to try and turn into an estate agent, but just to give you a picture of the property as a whole. It's a 3-bed semi-detached property. It has 1 bathroom, a decent garden, but no parking, only on-road parking, although there is space to park. It's in an ex-mining area of Mansfield, so the property itself is quite old, but I'd say it's in a decent state of repair. It's certainly not top-notch, but it's also not unloved, so I put it in the midpoint somewhere. Getting on to the numbers, so back in 2018, my partner and I bought this property for £100,000, £25,000 as a deposit and then £75,000 as a buy-to-let interest-only mortgage. We achieved a rent bang in line with market rate at the time of £525 per calendar month. There was good demand for it and I could have filled it several times over. Now, fast forward 8 years, the property is currently on the market with a guide price of £140,000 to £150,000, and the market rent for this property is between £900 a month and £950 a month. And it makes me feel old, first of all, saying those numbers, but also like, wow, that has, both areas have increased quite a lot over the last few years. And I guess if I was looking at those numbers coming in now with a fresh set of eyes, I'd think, yeah, that's a decent enough investment. Now, I know that that sale price and the rent price are theoretical until you achieve them, but based on talking to estate agents and seeing what has gone for what in the local area, I think that's a fair sort of guesstimation. So let's look at the calculations that an investor would look at then. So back when we bought the property, a £75,000 interest-only mortgage was costing us £150 a month. It was about a 2% interest rate. Fast forward 8 years, the borrowing is still the same, £75,000. That's now costing us £250 a month because of the interest rate increases. But of course, that is not factoring in the increased asking price. So a 75% mortgage on a sale price of £145,000 would be £109,000, and that will cost around £350 a month at the current market rates, plus fees that banks normally sting you with for buy-to-let products. And obviously there are certificates to get, there's solicitors to pay, there's stamp duty to pay, there's all these additional things that amount up to a decent amount of money when buying a property or an investment property. Now, those headline numbers as a whole have moved in like the same direction and roughly at a similar rate. I don't think there's a real big difference between the return percentage rise between the two, but I don't know if it's just me, it just feels like more intimidating because the numbers are higher. That's more intimidating on both ends. Like if there's no tenant here, you're paying this much out per month, and then when there is a tenant in, you're declaring more income and you're paying more tax, and like it just feels like it's elevated a lot more versus 8 years ago. Now, one thing that has shaped this investment from the beginning is that this property has had historic subsidence. Now, some people might hear that and go, whoa, the house is falling down, that is a big problem, I'd never buy anything like that. It's actually really common in this area. Many houses on this street have had the same, and many houses in the area have had the same. When you speak to prospective buyers or estate agents or solicitors in the local area, it's more of a, oh yeah, okay, has it been underpinned, has it had the work done, have you got proof of it or not? The biggest scandal was that people were, so I hear many years ago, receiving payouts from the coal board and then not getting that remedial work done to the house, so they were taking the compensation payments and not actually resolving it. That isn't the case with this one. This has had the work done, the paperwork is on the file, so I have that safe in my mind. But I guess over the years, that like psychological weight has begun to weigh more heavily on me. You can still get mortgages, you can still get insurance and everything, but there's always a little declaration, there's always a little, oh, just so you know this, and yeah, you pay a little bit more sometimes for things because of that. And I guess it just adds to that psychological weight of things might go wrong, might get a bill, oh, and there's this thing with it. Like, I don't know, it's not really affected us getting a tenant or buying it, and I don't think it will affect selling it, but it's just, I don't know, one of those things, another thing to put on the list. And then of course there's the magic of hindsight, and with these things I'm trying not to kick myself too much, but I would be lying if I didn't wish I had bought a newer property sometime. So some of these things might be age related, but some might just be par for the course. So in the last 8 years, we have had the odd or 3 big bills, so unexpected things that we've had to really pay out a lot of money for, and those things are 2 roofing and brickwork related things and then 1 boiler. And those sorts of things are things that you take a risk of whenever you buy any house, right? And as part of being a landlord, that's why I take on that risk, and a tenant doesn't take on that risk, and that's where the difference in the rent paid versus mortgage paid and what comes from all of that. So we had 2 bills for the roof. I mean, it's just a case of it needed doing. We want to do things properly here, so whenever we've had things done, we've made sure we've got the right work done and not scrimped and saved and not tried to cut back in any way. And then yeah, with the boiler issue, when we bought the house, we knew it had an old boiler, so you've got it at the back of your mind that at some point this boiler is going to break and it's going to be unviable to repair. Of course, you hope that day never comes, but of course it does, and it always comes at the wrong time. We seem to always have these big bills land at Christmas, and it's like, oh, I've got to pay out for this, and obviously you know it needs doing, and there's no option with it. And those big bills in total just over £9,000 in the last 3 years or so, and that is like several years of profit. And this isn't a get your violin out for a landlord who's not made any money, but it's just reiterating to me that psychological weight of, oh, this thing might happen, this emergency fund you need to have for it needs to actually be bigger, or this income you're potentially relying on isn't going to be there, just becomes more of a big factor. I guess I always knew that some big things would happen at some point, but I just didn't know exactly how that would materialize, and I guess I'd always hope for the best and pray that the worst doesn't happen. But looking at in recent years, I've spent much more money on this house that I don't live in than the house that I do live in, so I don't even see the benefit from the money that I'm spending on it, and it just doesn't sit right in my mind. Obviously, if I was looking at this property with a fresh brand new lens on it, I wouldn't know all of those things, but being a more experienced landlord now, I would factor those thoughts in more when I'm looking at the numbers, is the point of all that. Now, tax is a big consideration that I would give to this property if I was looking at it today. So back in 2018, I was a basic rate taxpayer. Now in 2026, I'm a higher rate taxpayer through my normal job. Again, not a scenario to get your tiny little violins out for, but something else to factor into the potential returns for this. Combined with higher mortgage interest rates, it's just another thing you've got to weigh up and really make sure there's enough income to make that offset worth it. And I guess another big difference in how I'm thinking today is I'm thinking very differently about investing in 2026 than I was in 2018. Right now I'm valuing much more hands-off approach, low stress, so taking on something like this is going to involve more hands-on work and more stress. I didn't know that in 2018, I know it now. So going into this, I'm definitely thinking more about how much work and how much actual admin am I going to have to do for this thing. For example, 25% of this property asking price is around £36,000. I'd be thinking, okay, if I was to put £36,000 into this, plus additional cost to buy the place, what if I was to put that into a global all-world index fund that I can just leave, not have to have any engagement with? Now, of course, you can't predict the future, and this channel is not about trying to predict the future, so who knows what would happen with that. But if I throw the clock back to 2018 and take that £25,000 that we put into here, plus all the other costs, but just to 25, I'd now have, if I was to put it in the FTSE All World, just over £50,000 with absolutely no work for myself. Maybe I'd look at it every now and again. Maybe there'd be some mental stress during the pandemic if the markets took a hit, but there's still nobody at my door asking for a payment for something. So I'd like to think that would have been easier to take, but yeah, it's difficult to weigh up the options like in a firm way because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Stock markets could plummet and property could do really well, but yeah, I'd just be thinking about what are the alternatives with this money rather than this property. Looking at it today, I'd also give more thought to what is my actual objective with this investment. Do I want it to provide me a monthly recurring income, or do I want it to grow and then take out the lump sum at some point? Because in the case of this property, which has, we think, increased in value quite a bit, you don't get that value unless you sell the property or refinance and pull some value out and go into more debt. Now, we weren't planning to refinance at all, so it's only through selling that we're going to release any of the capital gain. Of course, then you're subject to capital gains tax and you have to sell the thing, so you're going to lose the rental income in the future. But yeah, I'd give more thought to what is my objective in terms of income. If it's just a lump sum, then I'd be more tempted to do this. If it was an income, because of how unreliable I've now found that it is, I'd probably lean more towards stocks, I think, but I'd have to look at it in a bit more detail. So looking at it in a bit more detail then, £145,000 of the property, £950 a month rent, taking into account the 25% deposit, is putting it around an 8% gross yield. So that's not bad, but then you've got to take on expenses, tax, costs, maintenance, all those sorts of things. That's going to put it a fair bit lower. And for me, I still think it's a solid return. If you can put your money in something that is going to beat inflation, great. But if it's going to be just matching inflation, I think there's easier ways that you can do it, such as index funds or even some savings accounts are roughly in line with inflation. So the point of the video, would I buy this property as an investment? No, clearly not, because otherwise I'd just keep it. However, it's not because it's a bad investment in my opinion, it's just because of my goals and my experiences of like stress levels and work involved in managing a buy-to-let property. I think as an investment it's okay, and with the uncertainty of the world to come, there is a small reassurance in having bricks and mortar, a physical thing. Even when you're investing in index funds, you are invested in companies that you have no control of, and you haven't got a physical thing in front of you, have you? You've only just got some numbers on a screen, whereas this is a physical, Wars Monkey, a physical thing. So nobody can take the physical thing away from you if you own it, other than the bank if I stop paying the mortgage, or the council if I don't pay council tax. You get the point. So I'm not in any way kicking myself that we bought this property. I think it's important to have life lessons in life, and I've certainly learned a lot through doing this. I probably won't do it again. I won't do it in a mortgaged way again, so that would remove one big stress from my life. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? I am a big believer in that you miss 100% of shots that you don't take, so I'm glad that I did it. So in my next video, I'm going to do a deep dive into the numbers, the rental income, the expenses, all of that, to give you a good picture of whether it's actually been worthwhile on paper. Thank you very much for watching. This is The Compounding Project.